What up, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30-plus year video game enthusiast and industry analyst. And today, for July 24th, 2025, I'll run through the latest gaming news and what I've been playing. But also, yes, Ultronymous, good to see you in chat. It's the Street Fighter 2 character select. Now, normally you don't get to hear it. Like, that's a lot with character selects in fighting games because you might hear the beginning part, and then you move on. Although it is repetitious, repetitive, I think is what I'm trying to say. When you really listen to it, it's got some good like background beat to it. The drum beat to that is like really good, especially for that time period. Anyway, it's cool sometimes if you just sit there and like really listen to like Mario Kart 64, for example, recently really sitting there and listening to the music and we're like, wow, that's actually good stuff. And the same guy did all the way up to Mario Kart 8. So knew it wasn't a fighter's theme. Yeah, that's the other funny thing too. It's like, well, then what is this from? And then it's character select. I get it. Well, cool. Well, good everyone. Glad to get started talking here. Yesterday was another fun day. I gotta say, I feel like this week has been this good balance of a lot of work and then a lot of video games. Work, get off work, maybe do some training. Like today, I did some boxing in the morning before work, and it just really feels good. So let me actually jump in and show you what I've been playing, because obviously Machine Fall demo yesterday. I haven't played more since, but I want to finish that demo because I had to get the guys on the raft or whatever. But then after that, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Again, playing more of that. So 22 hours. Wow, I've been playing for a while. And there's still more to do. So if I was to knock anything about the game, and I think in order for it to be a 22-hour game, or more than that, something fell. What they're doing is, and they started this with Mario Odyssey, and I remember even before Mario Odyssey came out, they described this sort of gameplay style that I don't think you would attribute it to Mario Odyssey. You would attribute it to mobile games, which is exactly what Nintendo did. And it's basically, in Mario 64, there's 100 stars maybe, and then once you got to Odyssey and then even Bonanza, there's like hundreds. But sometimes, and so this is where there's this weird juxtaposition of quantity over quality, perceived maybe, where there's a lot of bananas to get in Donkey Kong Bonanza, and there was like an Odyssey where I don't remember that puzzle that I had to do. There's hundreds. So it's like some of the things you do in the game, you just kind of forget because it was like a simple thing where you pressed a button and then you just had to go break one block and then you get your banana, and it's just in the world like that. And you don't really, anyway. And so what happens is there's some parts I remember thinking of Donkey Kong Bonanza that were fun. Oh, to do this, to do that. But then there's so many bananas. Like, wow, I got that many bananas. Don't remember doing this. And I think then on the flip side, what they're doing is they're like, okay, if we want to make our game that massive mainstream appeal, we have to do the kind of, quick dopamine hit gameplay elements all in this open environment. But while it's doing that, it has some of the best design and art direction I've seen recently in video games. Again, I am enamored with the way Donkey Kong Bonanza is in general, but I've been able to really find the essence of what it is that I think it doesn't hold it back, but it's almost like, yeah, again, this kind of quick dopamine hit for bananas of gameplay elements that you're just not even going to think about. And it's like, well, then why is it there? And it's really just to fill time. But again, you're doing it within a world that looks amazing. The graphics, and that's the thing. It's like, it's not like the graphics are amazing, but the art direction is amazing. There's worlds you're in that, for one thing, it's very satisfying to punch and break blocks in the world, in the ground. I say blocks, but, but once you get to different materials, once you get to like light up crystals, glow in the dark crystals, like it's just when you're around that, it's like, wow, mesmerizing. So then when you're just doing a dinky thing where you just throw a block at a switch and then the banana appears over here and you're like, oh, I didn't really have to think much for that, but it looked cool doing it. And then you get all these like the different forms you can turn into of different animals that kind of have one note. There are some of these abilities that I've only used a few times when it called for it. Um, but that's not to take away to the game, but I guess to do more of a critical analysis, for as much as I'm gushing over Donkey Kong Bonanza, there are things that it's doing that I don't know are good if copied by other developers without that Nintendo charm. And I say charm, but not just in a dismissive way, just in they really care about the mechanics and the art direction blending. Anyway, I need to talk more about that at some other time. I want to beat it first to really get my thoughts. Okay, Wheel World. This is pretty interesting. This was on Game Pass, and I liked the idea because you're on a bicycle and you're just riding around open world bicycle. One of the main off-putting elements of it is the graphics. It uses the very extreme cell shading to the point where sometimes I don't really know what I'm looking at other than like colored forms that are in front of me because it's very little detail. Sometimes it looks okay, but sometimes I'm just not pulled in by the world because the graphics. To me, and this might be just my own perception, these graphics really call out like artsy game with little depth. I don't know if that's the case. So far, what I've played, what's cool with the Wheel World is as you're traveling around, you're finding parts for your bike, and then you can open up a menu like, equipment on a soldier, but you're putting your bike parts on. Uh, and the biking is okay. I I wouldn't say that the game, I guess, it does some sort of revolutionary bike mechanics, but it seems pretty fun to just be in this open world, and it almost looks like Breath of the Wild, but less detailed. But I, yeah, I don't know. Will I play it again? I don't know because it's not bad, but it's not necessarily what I'm looking to do. So, for instance, I got an achievement: go 40 kph, and then win the race, new kid on the block. So there's this beginning race, and it was pretty easy to win. As you do drifting, which it's not drifting like a car, I think bike, brake, kind of turning, you gain boost. And if you're behind a rider drafting, you gain boost, and then you can use boost and stuff. So interesting. I think it's good that something like this exists. That's all I have to say about that. Let's see. Oh, hey, what's up, Midnight Hatter? More stars is more better. It's what it seems like they think. Autonomous indie games do tend to be polarizing between either focusing entirely on gameplay, entirely on story, entirely on art style, with not as much energy put into other aspects. And that's a really good point because I think a lot of times in indie dev, they have like this idea of they want to go out and put, and so a lot of times you can't get those other factors down. So it could be Wheel World. It's really hard to say that. It looks like it does, and I'm saying that as a knock to it. In order for it to be able to achieve the other elements, I will say that, I could press the map button, and there's this whole open world map I can bike around. That's actually pretty cool. And even how you get the bike, you just find it laying on the ground, you pick it up, and what's weird is there's like dialogue between you and this little ghost that's on the front of the bike, and to be honest, I skipped all the dialogue. Like, it has no bearing on the gameplay that I was trying to get into. Okay, but to move on real quick. Also, again, I was having that shmup itch. Played again through some Thunder Force 3. And that's cool that it actually has the time now on here. And then played Lightning Force. So that's really weird that it's 9 minutes. They can't be right because I played through and died. And then I played through again last night. So, but I mean, maybe that only takes 20, 30 minutes. So I'm sure it just takes time to update. Or once you hit a certain time, it updates. I don't know. Anyway, it is interesting that Thunder Force 3 and Thunder Force 4 Lightning Force are only available on the Switch in the Sega Ages thing because they bought Technosoft in 2015, 16, 17, I don't know, something like that, to release these games. I think they should be releasing them on all platforms. I will say that out of all shmup re-releases, the Thunder Force series does it the best with the options it has of the game modes, international, Japanese, how many credits, score bonuses. You can adjust all that stuff, save states. Best version of playing those shmups for sure. Hey, Jamkill X, good to see you. MTV's The Wheel World, a new reality show comes. That is a good one. I guess I feel like that's what my brain was trying to say. Real World, because I used to watch that show. Growing up, I would watch. I say growing up because I was like later, but yeah, when I was like in my 20s, living on my own, I was always watching the Real World Road Rules stuff, the challenge. And there's this challenge 40 that's on, and that was like a big deal to me because it's like, yeah, I'm 40. They filmed it. I think it was either the end of last year. No. It was 2023, but they didn't have it out until 2024, but you had to have cable. And I haven't watched it. And that's not even what this show's about, and I'm just going on. Okay, Wuchang Fallen Feathers. This is a new release on Game Pass. The only reason I'm playing it is because it's on Game Pass. Because here's the thing, it's just a Souls-like. And and I might actually play it here in a second. I'm just kind of burnt out on Souls-likes when they play too much like a Souls-like. And Wuchang plays, you'll be surprised, exactly like Bloodborne more than a typical Souls-like. It's a Souls-like, but the focus here is on the dodging, which, if you remember with Bloodborne, it was known for being less about blocking more than most Souls games. Not only that, Wuchang does have a madness system, which I want to say that's what it was called in Bloodborne. Although I don't think I utilized it the way it was meant to. Like you would have insight, I think it was called, or something like that. Where over time you would start seeing the Lovecraftian monsters like on buildings and stuff. And it's if you had that much insight raised. And I don't know how Wuchang's system really goes into that, but the game feels good. I would say all the combat so far, the first few encounters, the enemies' moves didn't really have any telegraphed logic to it because it seemed like they would be trying to do an animation, but then would do something else. But then it just allowed me to kind of walk around and then take them out. So it seems like if you're really fast in the game, you can take enemies out before you even have to worry about telegraphed movements. That could be just because it's this early in the game. So, all right. Well, I think that's about it for what I've been playing. Let's go to some news. So this looks interesting. Bounty Sisters. And you're like, wow, but it's a shmup. But does it have a release date? Okay. Yeah. Okay. The Steam version is planned, but not dated. So it's really cool. Like the way these shmups come out, like especially this having a lot of like old school looking graphics, but it looks like this was made more modern, but it's still pretty cool. It reminds me of like Jamestown also, like modern old school graphics. And it's like Jamestown. It's a vertical shmup that takes up a wide part of the screen. Oh, anyway, it's saying here December 2025. Okay. And on Switch, I would guess a game like that would run very well on Switch. So if there's a US version, sure. All right. Data points to slowing layoffs, but doesn't capture true harm to game industry. So I'm curious what they're saying here. Okay. The video game industry is notoriously volatile. Companies hire up in the midst of development when there's lots to do, character dialogue to write, bodies to animate, and systems to code. Then come to cuts once a video game is released. People are laid off. Not everyone, of course. Enough workers are kept on to update, maintain the game, and eventually start a new project. Development happens in cycles, and those cycles have consistently left developers on edge. Layoffs were a constant hum long before the pandemic, but over the past several years, that hum has become a deafening roar. The past several years, what's interesting is this stuff has been going on for a while. I will say, though, I think, and well, actually, let's see if they even talk about it. Actually, let me type it in. There we go. This could have been avoided. The video game industry surged in 2020. People spent a lot of money on video games when they were stuck at home during the COVID pandemic. Games were both a thing to do and a place for socialization. Investors saw that number going up, way up, and injected the industry with more cash. Companies hired more people to keep up with the growth, but the massive growth was never sustainable. And that's really it. And when that line plateaued, companies realized they'd overinvested and overextended. Yeah, I mean, that it's not only that. This was at a time where also budgets have been too big for AAA, right? So it's almost like maybe AAA could have gotten away a lot longer with these bigger budgets if it wasn't for COVID kind of putting a magnifying glass on that. Um, and so I guess at the end of the day, when I'm seeing this, I'm like, no, everything's the same. We're just kind of bouncing back on, a bunch of rich dudes wanting to take a gamble on something. That's really all that is. And I feel like that's something people need to keep in mind when you're mad at like video game publishers closing or laying off people. There's so many factors to think. It's like, do we need to educate people on what it's like to get a job in the games industry? And if you do get a job in the game industry, are you going to be a corporate person? Are you going to be a contractor? Are you going to be independent? Because you just need to think of layoffs can just happen here in the US. And I have been a victim of that before. And it's been pretty bad. And from what I learned from that is you just got to work hard to find another job. And it might not even be the same thing you were doing before. But I guess what I'm getting at too is on top of that, I feel like a lot of video gamers and journalists are also feeding into this system. Like when I look at like the video game, and I wonder if we're going to see this today. Like when I scroll through the video games, I took off some of the websites where it would. Some of the news articles are just here's how to collect all blah 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 and blah blah blah, and they're pointing out games that are these overinflated budget games, and so there's like this feedback loop happening of like the game journalists, influencer, content creators are wanting to cover the stuff that has the biggest appeal, and because of that, they're really only talking about that stuff. And then those are the things that are leading to issues in the industry, like Ubisoft, Microsoft, all these companies, Sony, that are having to have these layoffs. And it's just this constant feedback loop. And it's so funny because even recently there was something between Destin and David Jaffe. And within that, David Jaffe, he didn't go all the way, but he kind of poked at Destin about like how he's really just covering these big things anyway, and he's not really helping me. And he didn't really go all in on him, and I respect that. But anyway, I hate talking about the stuff, but it's just when it says it doesn't capture true harm to game industry, I don't think that's what's going on here. It's not like what's happening right now is causing harm to the game industry. I think the game industry caused harm to itself between how it's a feedback loop I was just talking about, how the influencers work with the big corporations back to the influencers. And then when things crash and burn, the people that are left are the influencers that aren't making money from a publisher. Their income doesn't come from a publisher. It comes from the hits they get on their YouTube. So then from their point of view, oh, I'm fine, but look at these layoffs, Anyway, let's see. Numbers can't always go up and to the right. Yeah. Plus, maybe focus on devs and programmers instead of marketers and narrative consultants. That is a great point. Most of the most pivotal and influential games that came out were people that were devs first, but then they knew, okay, we have to add some stuff to it. But it was the mechanics. You look at John Carmack, great example. Yeah. Yep, I was about to say, I feel like part of this is the fact that these games now have obscenely large dev teams. So when purges come, they hit even harder. Small teams less likely to cut than bloated ones filled with sea of middle managers, as you call them. Yep. Investors got too happy. The wrong people got hired in. They overestimated and misread the audience. Yeah, so much of that. So as someone that sits here, and you guys are great examples, we can sit here and have the conversation. It's like, guys, we could run our own studio. Not that we really could, but I feel like sometimes we can see, and I wonder how much of it is our livelihoods are in a different pocket, right? When you have these investors or these executives, their livelihoods all in the business, whereas ours are in other things, but We see the fun in the gaming, and because we want to have that pure joy and fun, we can point out the things that remove that pure joy and fun, and usually that has to do with lots of money. I think Ollie Barter is right about the money layer too. The devs and publishers didn't need gamers to buy their games. They were trying to appease investors. Yeah, it's the same thing that was going on in Hollywood. Hollywood and the video game industry, it's like the same issue. And it's funny because even, I don't know if you guys are familiar with John Campea. He's a huge movie pundit, but he always says there is no money laundering or whatever going on in Hollywood. And that's exactly what it is. And it's the same thing with video games. That's what these investors are doing. They're wanting to move around money. It doesn't matter what industry it is. It's just that the video game industry got that once, in the mid 2000s, the companies saw, or investors saw, okay, yeah, the video games are the way to move money around. And that's what's really happening, It's like, oh, this game's going to do good. Let's make that budget so we can get a lot of money. Assassin's Creed, all their execs are getting paid. EA, that dude, Andrew Wilson, didn't get like $5 million out of something random, So, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to something a little more positive. Although this is more, it could have been doomy, but the Final Fantasy Tactics remake has been rebuilt from scratch due to source code being overwritten. How scary is that? Now, I don't know the technical details, like if they had like a computer and someone was just working on source code, and then and it might be in the story, but I just think it's very interesting whenever a developer has to go in and do that. I always find it interesting when they're rebuilding a game in a different engine and you couldn't tell, like, oh, that's a different engine. So it's just kind of sad that they confirmed the original code for Final Fantasy Tactics no longer exists. That seems scary, but I feel like there's a way that it can come back. Once the AI can decompile, I don't know the terminology, but you know what? For someone that doesn't care about Final Fantasy games, RPGs, or whatever, I did enjoy Final Fantasy Tactics. I think it was Game Boy Advance, the one I played. So I'd be down for something else. Okay. Wuchang Fallen Feathers soars on Steam despite overwhelmingly negative reviews. I haven't read any of the reviews. And actually, let me move on real quick. Sony and Bandai Namco penned strategic partnership in 68 billion yen deal. $460,000. That's not a lot. Okay. This deal has seen Sony Group acquire 16 million shares of Bandai Namco, or around 2.5% of the company. So guys, let's remember this in the future when Sony buys Gundam. That they already have, and don't they already own that Kodakawa, whatever, the anime thing? You never know. This could be the start of, because here's another thing, Bandai, or Namco specifically, tons of video game IP. And then Bandai Namco together, Sony's been getting a lot of anime. Bandai Namco seems like something. So this could, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if you look at Sony, you look at like PlayStation, how much that's failing, and they're jumping into anime by purchasing that company that owns a lot of anime. It makes sense that they would have this stake in Bandai Namco and possibly continue to increase that. That'd be interesting. A new Lollipop Chainsaw game in anime will not have excessive DEI restrictions. So I've been wanting to play that Lollipop Chainsaw remake. I just didn't want to drop 40 on it, but apparently it did good enough, and they got the blessing from Grasshopper Manufacturer. Is that who the original developer was? To continue making games out of this. And so, not that I need something to tell me it will not have excessive DEI restrictions, but part of me is like, okay, at least there's people recognizing that, but I don't know again how much this is just being virtue signaling of, I don't know, but interesting. I like this just because people, it was just a random third party that released this game. They got the rights to release it, and I guess it did well enough to do more. That's pretty cool. All right. We're going to do something real quick, and we're not going to spend too much time with it, but I'm going to jump into Wuchang just to show you guys real quick. I am impressed with how it runs on my computer. I was playing it on Xbox. It looks great on Xbox. This morning, I was running it on the computer just to see if it could run, and I think it looks great. Yeah, I remember last night. The greatest thing happened. I was playing this game on Xbox. I'm like, man, it's late. I want to go to bed. No, it wasn't like it was late, but for me, I wanted to get to bed. And I'm like, oh, but I got to find a place to save. And I was like, if anything, it's probably going to be right up the staircase, but it's not. And then, yeah, I go up there and it's there. I saved my game. Because in Souls games, you never know where you're going to find the bonfire. Let's see. While this is loading, Sony Pictures Gundam versus Legendary Gundam. Okay. Oh no, actually. So Craven the Hunter, Venom. Much of Japan's game dev source code have been poorly stored or lost due to disaster or space saving are caught in the shuffle. Sadly, it's really unfortunate to know that's been the case. Given how raunchy the original live version was, it was a valid concern to get heavily censored. Yeah, and hold on a second. And I don't even know if it got censored. Did that new one that came out? I don't know if you guys heard if it did or not. I don't think it did, but okay. All right. You know what? And did it say Unreal Engine at the beginning? I didn't see. All right, so here is Wuchang Fallen Feathers. It looks like, I can't tell on stream if it's 30 or 60. It looks like it's 30 here. I'm seeing a lot of dynamic resolution stuff happening. But I kind of... Okay. Game options. I don't think I'm going to mess with the graphics too much. It's 4K. VSync is on. Oop. I don't need that. Oh, low latency. Oh, and then I can lock FPS. I won't mess with that. Oh, depth. There's a lot of stuff I'd want to do, but just for the stream. Anyway, here's a little shrine here's a shrine you shave in. No, that's you save and look at the draw distance down there. That looks great. Okay. Let's see if we can find an enemy and show you guys. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, did I just fall? In a spot I'm not supposed to fall in? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I'm supposed to go up or down. I don't remember where I came from. But when I go up here, I don't see. Oh, look at that. So, yeah, was there not really a jump button? So if you get stuck on some geometry, that's it? Alright. This is very Bloodborne. Love the way this looks. Okay. So it's interesting because I killed these guys, but I thought I did the thing where I replenish. And then I thought they would just come back or whatever. Oh, I can cast spells. Did I just get this? Yeah, cool. Cast spell. Maybe I can't cast a spell yet. Oh, is that? Yeah, so there's this other thing. As you dodge, you like on your left arm, you like gain, I guess, feathers. That's where that term comes from. And then you have some abilities. I haven't really got it down yet. Let's see. Okay, let's fight this person. didn't really take too much. That's kind of what I was talking about, where it's like hard to gauge where this game is going because that didn't really take too much. Same with that. Let's see. Plunging attacks. Okay, kind of typical for a... Wait. So I can't turn the camera even more to... Oh, here we go. No! Oh my gosh. Oh, wrong button. Okay. There we go. Oh. So the second there, I earned whatever you call that. Okay, and then I stabbed that guy. Oh, there's another one. Oh, okay. Well. So let's see what happens now that I died. Do I start where I was? Do I get that madness? There's all these systems in place. Okay. Mana base, mana, whatever. So now I have the health, which I don't know why I didn't before. All right, let's do that again. And I don't know if I lose anything from that. Oh my gosh, I missed that. Let's see if I can. Did it? Oh, okay. All right, for one that didn't look like an attack, and the guy kind of headbutt me. So it's like I could just run up to the guy and kill him, but I was kind of hoping to learn some more of the enemy AI movement. But anyway, it is time to go. So this seems cool. It seems like everything else I've done before, you know, it's going to be hard to... How do you exit these games nowadays? Game options, return to title. Anyway, they all play the same, you know, they're really just copying that Souls formula, which is fine because that's awesome, but it might not make me interested to keep going. Like, there was Wukong, Wolong. Wukong was pretty good, but again, like after some time, I'm like, you know, that's So anyway, guys, I'm going to get to work. This was a lot of fun. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day. I'll be back tomorrow with some more gaming news, but until then, have a good one.